Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene here. It's Sunday, September 9th, and it's quite a gloomy Sunday. There's the beginnings of a tropical storm slash almost hurricane tropical storm that are coming up the East Coast, and rain is coming in for the next few days here, um, which is better than what this past week has been, which was like 95, almost 100-degree days and incredible humidity and absolute miserableness. So change of seasons dramatically, shall we say. It's been a while since I've been back, almost 6 weeks, which is a lot longer than I normally go. I just want to start out by saying thank you for being here, whether you're a regular visitor, whether you're finding me for the first time or just coming back relatively recently. I'm in a place right now where I'm really appreciating, as always, ever since I found Flosstube World, but especially now, really appreciating this Flosstube community. I think when you, or I know when I watch Flosstube videos, there is the full range of when people share, especially like at the beginning of their videos, but also sprinkled throughout. There are some who share a lot about their personal lives outside of stitching, their families, their work, job life, their outside of stitching life. And there's others that keep that separate, and their videos are really predominantly focused on their stitching world. And for me, the beauty of Flosstube is the combination of whatever folks choose to share. I think for those who've been with me a long time, if you had to categorize me, I don't think I've shared a whole lot of personal stuff. My videos really do tend to be very stitching focused, or related to my creative worlds. But for lots of reasons, I do need to start out with the personal side today, so I hope you'll bear with me here. It explains my absence, and it's just the reality here. So, a couple videos ago, in the middle of July, there was another long break of time where I hadn't done a video, and I came on and shared some news, and I had so appreciated the outpouring of love from the Flosstube community, and that's partially why I'm sharing today, because I need all of you. I shared the news back at the beginning of July that my mom had passed away, and I'm coming to you today to let you know that at the end of August, my dad passed away, not even 8 weeks after my mom. And that was, and again, I do need to share some of the story. My mom, in a lot of ways, had some long-standing medical issues. She, for many, many years, had kidney and heart-related problems. She had significant heart surgery 2 years ago, with some significant problems in the recovery time in the months afterwards. And then she had been on at-home dialysis for over 6 years. My dad was her partner in that. They don't let you do at-home dialysis unless you have a partner to do that with. Especially 2 years ago, after some of the infections and things that happened afterwards, it was really remarkable how she came back from all of that. And while my parents weren't like traveling exotic places or anything, they certainly were going out to dinner with friends and doing a lot of the things they enjoyed, which was mostly doing things with their family and with a close circle of friends. The truth is, you could say in a lot of ways, I had been steeling myself for a couple of years about my mom. And when she passed away, it started in June with an infection. And like others, she was in the hospital, and this was one that got worse and couldn't be resolved, and it eventually weakened her system so much, and it led to a massive heart attack. And it was her body had fought for a very long time. But the truth was, up to about 2 weeks before she had passed away, she was doing everything she had normally done. My dad, on the other hand, all of this was completely unexpected. In the first few weeks after my mom passed away, he had a very rapid health decline. And while some of the things, some of the symptoms, some of the stuff that was going on, sure, there was this thought, is this just the physical manifestations of grief? My parents were married for over 49 years. Their 50th wedding anniversary would have been in November. Their wedding anniversary is the day after my birthday, actually. It would have been 50 years this coming November. And they were very much a couple that, while not the over lovey-dovey kind of couple, but they were very much a dependent couple together. And so, yes, it was very hard to picture, how's my dad going to get along without my mom? And you hear stories of older people who, when one half of the partnership passes away, the other half, for lack of better words, dies of a broken heart, or things of that nature. But this isn't quite that kind of story. The physical problems that my dad started having in those weeks were very concerning. I have 2 sisters. They both live, I grew up in Connecticut. My sisters are both about a half hour away from where we grew up. I'm in New Jersey. I'm about 2.5, 3 hours away. I was up there at the end of July for a long weekend. We were all struggling to figure out what's going on here. My dad was happy to go to doctor appointments and say, could we do some tests? Could we figure out what's going on? Fast forward to the middle of August, when things were bad enough to go to the emergency room. Within a couple of days, tests had come back that he had very advanced stage liver cancer that was already metastasized from elsewhere. There was no treatments to pursue, and he passed away about a week and a half later. So it all happened very quickly. And it was the kind of thing that, I mean, all we can say over and over to ourselves is there was no signs or symptoms that, or at least that he had, or that he shared, or that his body allowed him to share, because his whole focus was taking care of my mom. And it was, once she was gone, it's like his body said, okay, you can let go now. And that's exactly what happened. So all of this happened very quickly. It has been very hard to deal with. My sisters and I are trying to process a lot of things. There is a house that we more or less grew up in. Our family moved into that house. My parents had been there for 37, 38 years. We moved in the day that Charles and Diana got married. That's how we always could tell the date. It was that day. So there's a lot that will need to be processed and worked through as we deal with the pieces in the house. My parents had a dog, and one of my sisters has taken her in. It's just been an awful lot. And as we each are dealing with it in our own ways. I was away from my home, my space here. I was up in Connecticut for 2 weeks through the funeral, to go out to a cemetery and see my mom's grave, which was so fresh, and to be burying my dad right next to it. And in a lot of ways, it was all right and good. They belong together. That is true. It is also just hard. So I needed to get that out there. I needed to share that with all of you. I'm going to keep going here because you all are part of my world, and it has been important to me to get back here. I so appreciated the comments and the love that was shared with me when I shared about my mom back in July. I received a number of cards in the mail, which meant so much to me. Messages from all the different formats that people can send these days. And I needed all the love that I could get. And so I'm just putting that out there, that it was all appreciated, and yeah, I need it again. I'm trying to get myself back into a, I don't know, I'm not going to say normal state because things aren't quite normal right now, but into a routine. The last couple of mornings, I have woken up, 3-4 mornings, I have woken up thinking, am I ready to do a video? And it was just about wanting to connect with the Flosstube community. And I've been trying to figure out what feels right. And you know what? There's nothing that's going to feel right. I'm just going to put this out there, and that's all I can do. Because I just want to share with all of you. I appreciate everything so much. And if you're someone who has just stumbled on me for the first time, maybe you need to stop, or maybe you've already stopped, and go back and watch some other videos and see what I'm like, what my stitching is, what sort of my normal videos are like. But I did need to start with the personal on this one because it is totally affecting my world right now. And I need that to be the honest words to start out. There's another reason that I didn't want to wait too long to make a video right now. So I need to kind of switch gears here. Thank you for letting me share, because it's important. It's important for me to let my community here know this. The other reason that I didn't want to wait too much longer to share, to put out a video with all of you, and I'm now trying to move myself into stitching things. Way back, 6 months ago or so, I had shared with you that I had gotten a design accepted into Just Cross Stitch magazine. If you are new, I started about over a year and a half, not quite a year and a half ago, designing things, designing patterns and putting them out there and selling them through my Etsy store. I got a design accepted into Just Cross Stitch magazine, and I shared that 6 months ago and said it will be in the September-October issue, and that's about all I could tell you right now. Well, guess what? That issue is out. And while I had done a post on Instagram about it, it was mid-August when I received an issue in the mail. It was right when the digital subscribers got their digital issue. I'd done a quick post on Instagram, and then things started to fall apart in my world. I just wanted to make sure to share it with you while you could still get the issue if you were interested. So this is the magazine that I'm referring to, the one with this on the cover, the Fall Cardinal Reef on the cover. When I had the first original communications, they referred to this as the September-October issue, but they have certainly moved into calling it, am I right? That they just call it the October issue. So the October issue came out digitally mid-August, and the print issues in the couple weeks later. You can get this like in needlework stores now. I know in my area, I can't get this at a Joann's or a Michael's or anything like that, but I can get this at a Barnes & Noble's. At a Barnes & Noble's bookstore, in the magazine section, in the craft section of Barnes & Noble's, you can get Just Cross Stitch. So in the past, whenever in my years of not being near an LNS or for convenience sake or whatever, I know that I have gone to Barnes & Noble's to look up things that are in Just Cross Stitch when needed. So I just want to share with you that, so here's the table of contents. And when I first saw that my piece, where I'm pointing right there, is the first piece in the issue right here. Unfortunately, they didn't use my designing name of Works by ABC. They just used my name. There's an advertisement, but once you get past the advertisement and the editorial page, this is the design. So 6 months ago, before I sent this, I did the stitching of it. Before I mailed this in, I recorded a little clip. And because I knew once I mailed it in, I wouldn't be able, there's just so much you can see when you do this, although it's actually not that bad. But I'm going to put that clip of me talking about the stitching in right here. Hi, Flosstube. I am filming this on Sunday, March 10th, and I'm going to be saving this clip and inserting it in a video about 6 months from now, which is so weird to think about, but that's reality. I've got a weird lighting thing going on here. What is hard for you guys to tell, I have a skylight that's like right there, and I'm filming, this is the day after daylight savings time, so everything sort of changes and shifts. I'm filming it at a time of day where the sun is coming in and hitting there, and you're just getting like this weird light thing, but we're just gonna like deal with that. Anyway, what I wanted to share with you, and the reason I need to save it, where I am right now, in March, I've shared in videos is that I had a design accepted to the Just Cross Stitch magazine, and tomorrow I'll be mailing out the finished project. And I know, and so I'm going to insert this in a video after the magazine comes out, and I know you'll be able to see one picture of it. So I wanted to just get it on video so that you'll be able to see it a little bit close up, and so that I'll have a few minutes to talk about it, sort of, I'll have it saved on video. Just Cross Stitch, you get yourself on I emailed them, the information is on their website about designers who are interested in designing. Got myself on an email mailing list for their bi-monthly call for design. I forget what they call it. But they put out for every issue, this is what we're looking for the blah, blah, blah issue. And at the point they did this, it's for their September-October issue. They might just call it their October issue. The first communication, it said September-October, and then I feel like the next communication said October issue. But they put out what their theme is. They're looking for designs in these colors. It does seem pretty vague. It also seems like, but feel free to submit anything you want kind of wording. But I wanted to take advantage of doing something like this to get my name out as a designer. I felt so excited that they accepted something that I designed, which I'm going to talk about, and it's something I want to do again. There's certainly been another call since that time. I did not submit something for the next one. I've got too many stitching things on my plate right now, but definitely a few issues from now, I will definitely try again. We'll see what happens. So for the September-October issue, they said the theme would be fall harvest. So think fall colors and assorted, the wording doesn't even matter so much. But this is the piece that I designed and have stitched. I struggled with coming up with a name for it. Ended up calling it Elegant Pumpkin Bowl. I think I've already established that I'm just not very good with coming up with names. I need to crowdsource that better. The original design I submitted to them, just computer-generated design, they came back, they said they liked it. They wondered if I can make it a little bit bigger, because I said you can check off whether the designer will stitch it, whether have them stitch it in-house, whether the designer will finish it, have them finish it in-house. I said I would stitch it, but leave the finishing up to them. However, I had no vision of however they wanted to finish it in terms of balancing their issue. Again, I'm trying to get my foot in the door here, so wanted to keep options open. They came back to me, they said they liked the design. They wondered if I could make it a little bit bigger so that they could finish it into a pillow size, or what they wanted to do as a pillow. So I ended up making the border a bit bigger than originally. So this part got added. I actually extended some parts than the first original design. And something else, which I'll talk about in a minute. But just to give you some up-close pieces of it. Sorry, I have to see what I'm doing. It's designed in weeks. I like variegated threads, and especially when I can play with the variegation. And where I did it especially here is the bowl. And what I did, how can I do this? There we go. On the bowl, I stitched, nope, there we go. No, I can't do this. Diagonally. So I got the stripy effect of variegation, but I did it on diagonals to the center. Oops, sorry. Diagonals to the center, and then went diagonally out from the other direction. Does that make sense? So that I got the stripes in that way. I just thought it would bring on a certain effect. In retrospect, I wish I had been more conscientious of what I was doing with the pumpkin, because there was a good variation with the color of weeks that I chose for the pumpkin, but it wasn't enough to make me want to pull it out. The border took a while. In my videos of the month of February, and in some Instagram posts, I've posted how I've been stitching a lot. Yeah, the finished piece, it's a little over 11 inches by about 6 inches. So it's not small. It's not, you wouldn't call it small. And that was more stitching, a lot of intense stitching time just because I had to get it done. And I'll tell you, stitching fall colors in February is not, it doesn't perk you up, let's put it that way. I really wanted some like spring colors to be stitching. But this just gives you some up close, hopefully, that you might not get if you were looking at it in the magazine. And I'll be very interested and curious and anxious to see how it looks all finished in the magazine. Now, when they contacted me to say that they were going to accept the design, they liked the border, and they wondered if I could design a second thing to fit inside the border. I wouldn't have to stitch the border twice. They wanted a word. They gave me a few options to choose from, and again, consider or remember the September-October issue time period. The word I chose to go with was thankful. So they wanted a word that would fit inside the border. At this moment, before I send this off and before I have some more, I'm hoping some email exchanges with them this week, I'm not 100% sure how they're going to finish off this. But I did have to stitch a second thing. And so the second, you can see it's on the same piece of fabric. I went with the word thankful. They wanted me to use something of the same color. Couldn't go with the green of the leaves because that just didn't work with the border. If I went with the red, turns into a little bit more of a Christmassy thing. People, I'm just not an orange person. Like literally that pumpkin is like one of only maybe 2 times I can think of that. I mean, I'm so rarely stitching orange. There was no way I was going to do anything with orange. So the gold yellow was the way to go. And it needed something. So it's outlined with the brown. The brown stems, by the way, I did not use weeks. There are only about 30 stitches total of brown, and there is just no need to do any variegated anything. So it's just a DMC color that I did for that. So, and so then I just outlined it in brown. So that thankful, that word right there, fits very nicely in that border. So I'll be very curious to see what they do with that in the magazine. Are they going to leave it as is? Are they going to like Photoshop it into the border to show what it could look like? Be curious to see. The other thing that I did with the variegation on this, because I wanted to avoid the stripy effect, and it's hard to, I don't know how well you can see it. Because I wanted to avoid the stripy effect, the way I handled the variegation, and I don't know what the name for this is that I kept jumping around with the thread. So it's more time consuming to stitch like this, and yeah, some mistakes get made and you realize it and you have to go back. But to jump around and, you know, to stitch something here and up, down, over, around, or to go up and down a few times so that the colors of all of one part don't stay together. And it just, I think, gives a nice effect when you stitch with variegated threads like that. Um, it's just another way that I like to use variegated threads. So these two pieces, well, this one piece, but the two designs are getting sent off in the mail with all the paperwork being emailed off because they are due to just cross stitch this week. Wanted to make sure I had, sorry, that I had this on record. And like I said, this little clip is going to be saved for about 6 months. But I'm looking forward to the time that I'll have a magazine in hand and we could all be looking at it together. So again, here's the piece. They finished it into a pillow. You also get the second chart of the word thankful, which you could, instead of stitching the bowl with the fruit, you can stitch the word right in there and just use the border. I also thought this is either pure chance or somebody is really looking into it. Without showing, how am I going to do this? I have no paper planned to do this. Without having, oh yes I did, hold on, there's paper sitting right here. So the top part of this page is part of the pattern, but the bottom part, you know, is the way they put advertisements in. That's my LNS, Needleworker's Delight. And they pretty regularly, they have an ad in just cross stitch, I think every time. But how it is that their ad of my LNS came to be on the page of my pattern, I just think is pretty cool. So before too much time had passed, I wanted to make sure to share this in a video, and maybe there will be some other publication design to share with you in the future. As you can imagine, the stitching in the creative world has not been anywhere near as much as it typically would have been in these last few weeks, but I will share what I have to share. Really the only main project that I basically didn't do any stitching when I was in Connecticut. I had a small thing with me and I just worked on it a couple of times. Before and after, the main project that I've been working on, I shared in my the last video when I had introduced some new patterns. One of them was this piece. It is a design that I have both a black work and a cross stitch version, and I'm stitching the black work version of it. And I wanted to show you my progress. You can see, although I can't see you seeing, there we go. I finished this past week. All right, see these, oh my God. I'm working on these scroll bars, which are so long. These are 30-inch scroll bars, so it's hard for me to hold and talk at the same time. I finished this ring, and what is, I think, is a good thing about this design is that it's very large. I can't deny that. I should take this out so that I could talk about it. But what's convenient is that anyone could choose to do as much of it as they want. Like, for example, what I have stitched is this ring right here. That could be a standalone project as is. So you can see that there. I started working outward actually last night. I had this vision, right? Not that it makes any difference, but that's actually the way I'm working. I just wanted to see how wide this is going to be. So literally, I was just kind of trying to make my way out. This right here, this circle, this line right there is literally the outer edge. So all of this is, you know, whether I think I am going to stitch it as one giant ring, although it could be broken up into a couple rings, but all of this is going to get stitched. This is as wide as it's going to be. It is actually, it will be 18 inches in diameter. So from, I can't do this, from there to, you know, where the equivalent on this side is 18 inches. And all of that will be filled in. I'm doing this on 40 count over 2, no, Yes, 40 count over 2. I'm using one thread of B5200 DMC white. I just love the look of it. It is a design that is based off of a filet lace tablecloth. I think it would have beautiful look as cross stitch. The black work, yes, it's not in black, but it's like it's the same style as black work would be. It just really appeals to me. It's the laciness of it. And yeah. So if I do that, ooh, there we go. There's a lot more to go, but I will continue to go along. So that's been my main stitching project. I did also, in the beginning parts of August, I had posted on Instagram. I honestly have, if I shared this in my last video, I have no memory if I did, because I feel like I did this after the last video, but I'm not sure. I'm going to pretend I didn't share it at all, so I'm hoping this is brand new to you. I had been playing around with, somewhere along the line, I purchased a piece of 55 count linen fabric just to play with, and then it became an interesting challenge. Can I stitch on 55 count over 1? Why was this an interesting challenge for me? I don't know. I wasn't going to stitch like a long dog sampler on it, but just something little. And part of the challenge of that is thread, because you can't use DMC. I mean, it clumps up. You can't, it's too thick. DMC thread is too thick. I had played around with some different threads, and what I have in my little arsenal is bobbin lace threads. If you are new here, one of the things that I do share is another passion of mine is bobbin lace, and I have something specific to share with you on that world in a moment. And so bobbin lace threads can come in all thicknesses, and some threads which are specifically marketed, so to speak, as bobbin lace threads, you don't have to just use for bobbin lace, and vice versa. You can use threads that are not necessarily marketed as bobbin lace threads for bobbin lace. But what that means is that I have some thread that is very, very fine, or I know where to get some. So I, from that perspective, was thinking I need really, really fine thread. So I stitched something using really good magnification that I did full X's, 55 count over 1. And then I made it into a necklace. So I want to share with you, and to put it in perspective, here's a penny. For US viewers, this is for, this is non-US viewers. I don't know how this compares to your own coins, but here's a penny. Here is what I stitched. It is, just about the size of a penny. Let's see if I bring it up really close. Now, I need to, it's not permanently attached to this necklace form. I do want to take it off. I need to lace it to get, I need to get it smoother round-wise. But that is, it's a thread that's finer than like a typical sewing thread, but not much finer. And it's a silk thread. Most sewing threads would either be polyester or cotton. If you're like in a Joann's and you're looking at, like, Gutermann has a silk thread that you could buy at Joann's, but the silk thread of Gutermann is actually thicker than the cotton thread of Gutermann or the polyester thread of Gutermann. But this is a silk thread that's very fine. It's not a shiny silk thread. That design is actually from one of my own patterns. It's the center part right here. And, I want to fix it a little bit better, but I think it's just something that I like. Now, I am intrigued enough by what I did to want to do more. Design or use a part of a design. Some jewelry items that are easily purchased. Sometimes I think about this as like this focused, intense, small, but a focused, intense hours that are spent doing something like this, and the satisfaction of having done. Someone from a distance wouldn't know, but a stitcher would not only know, but would really appreciate what went into that. I've toyed with the idea of maybe making a few and maybe selling them. I don't know if there's some stitchers who would like to own something that is this small. I don't know, they could say they made it themselves or something, get away with making their friends say, I stitched on 55 count. I'll see. If you have any thoughts about that, leave them in the comments. Would you purchase something that somebody made like this, a necklace or earrings or something like this? I'll see. I'll see what I end up doing with that idea. The last thing I have to share is I did also this week, when I came back, I spent a little time trying to finish a bobbin lace project that you have seen me working on very off and on, mostly off, in a few videos. I even did a couple of Instagram TV things with it. It's just a pattern that's just been languishing on my lace pillow, and it was something I just wanted to get finished. It is just a lace bookmark pattern. I have like a clear plastic sleeve that I could put it in. I had specifically started this pattern because it wasn't particularly complex, so that I could do it while demonstrating or sharing with people about bobbin lace. And frankly, bookmarks make good gifts, so I need to do some of these. There are some pretty special people out there, you know who you are, who've been helping me a lot in the last few weeks. And without naming names, I just want to, and at the same time, I just want to say publicly, thank you. I truly don't know what it would have been like if this summer had happened 2 or 3 summers ago, before I found Flosstube, before I found this community. While the other groups of friends and people in my world have been wonderful and great and supportive, these stitchy friends have enriched my world in a way that I just can't even put into words. So this, I know, is one of my shorter videos, and that's perfectly fine. That's about all I have to share for today. I am going to get myself, let me just insert one other little thing. I started out with how I was going to get personal, and I did. Those of you who, one thing I have shared over time is that I am a teacher, and but I haven't talked about that side of me, and I'm not going to, because at some point last year, I learned that my students last year had discovered me on YouTube. That is a consequence of my YouTube name being my name and not a, stitchy name, or even using Works by ABC as a YouTube name. Long story, short version is, if you are someone who's considering making a Flosstube, please jump in. There are so many of us who are here to help give advice and suggestions. And the first piece of advice I give to everybody is start a fresh account. Do not go onto YouTube and say, oh, it looks like I could just use the account that's there, because that one's already associated with my primary Gmail and blah, 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 blah. Start fresh. Okay. When I discovered that the students had discovered me, it just made me uncomfortable. I prefer to keep worlds separate, particularly my teaching life and my stitching world. I feel like I'm deep enough into a video now that no student could possibly still be watching. But that is partially why, ever since I learned that, I stopped any school talk ever since that point. And so I won't be talking about school-related things other than I just need to also insert, on top of everything else, I am also in a transition new school-related life experience right now, and that has also made this time of year really hard. So again, needing your love and support. But as much as I will or won't share personal things going forward, probably not teaching school stuff. It's just better. Many years ago, there was a faculty member who I was teaching her daughter, and she asked me to keep all communication through her husband. And that was just how in their family they kept that separation, because she was a faculty member, and they called it it's the separation between church and state. That's how they refer to it in their family. And so in my mind, it's always been the separation between church and state, how you keep your world separate. And there's some worlds that just need to be separate. Okay. I need to go back to where I was, which was saying a huge thank you to those that have surrounded me with a lot of love and the support. I've tried to give back in all the ways that I can and want to continue. I may not be the kind of person that is able to send all the gifts and do that kind of giving, but as much as I can give with words and kind deeds, I hope I can. Thank you to everyone who's been commenting and liking and caring in all the ways. Thank you to those that visit my Etsy store, which is Works by ABC, and purchasing my patterns and supporting me in that way and cheering me on as I am needing to and wanting very much to move forward in that, getting back to some designing things this week, I'm hoping, and moving forward. And I hope by the next video I have some progress and some things in that world to share with you. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for listening to all of this, and till next time.